Galvin was alluding to the fact that there may be a break in the Stephen Avery case, which is the subject of the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer 1 and 2.
A Wisconsin inmate reportedly confessed to documentary crews that he killed Teresa Halbach, the murder victim who, of course, was the whole main focus of Making a Murderer. The director of Convicting a Murderer, an unaffiliated new documentary about Halbach's murder, told Newsweek Monday that his production company had received a confession from one of the notable convicted murderers from Wisconsin. He said that he has the confession on audio. They are not releasing the man's name. He's handed over the possible evidence to law enforcement as they continue to determine if the confession is legitimate.
So he'll have to know, obviously, details to make them, say, okay, he definitely did it. But also, there's probably some people in jail that have seen the documentary that are trying to get in on the action. You know
sure,
what I mean?
Totally could be, because by this point, I know so much about the case that I could admit to doing it and know a lot of stuff about it. Of course, Stephen Avery and his nephew, Brandon Dassey, have spent more than a decade behind bars after being convicted for the 2005 murder of the photographer, Halbach. So they're in prison, but this may be something. I got to tell you, I watched a lot of that stuff and read about it and everything else, and it really could go either way. Stephen Avery is a garbage person. Just the fact that he threw a cat in a fire makes me go, okay, that's a garbage person.
Well, I mean, he definitely has mental issues.
But could he be set up by the cops? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because he was already wrongfully convicted, sued the police. They kind of had it out for him, all that stuff. And then that Brendan Dassey is just
He's
diminished.
Mentally challenged.
Yeah, he has a diminished mental capacity where he really had no idea. And then they were questioning him, and he was just kind of, I don't know.
They
and
forced
then
him into a confession.
Yeah, that was coerced for sure.
Well, I didn't have as much passion in the documentaries as a lot of people did because I didn't watch them at the same time.
Yeah.
But I really, you don't want anybody that's in jail for a crime they didn't commit to be freed, whether or not they're killing cats or at all.
Sure.
It's ridiculous, the amount of evidence that is there to just create a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And those guys are in. And plus, it's embarrassing for people when they let them out now. There's a lot of people are going to have to answer questions of why things happened.
Oh, and there's
it's like the warden in Shawshank. You don't want to let the guy be innocent because then you got to answer questions.
Right, and there's a lot of questionable stuff, and that may just because that's the way the documentary leaned it that way, But there's a lot of stuff where you're like, I can't believe. And Dom, as a lawyer, I'm sure if you watched it, there's a lot of stuff where you go, how is that guy a lawyer?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I thought on a few of the different people. I was like, that shouldn't be a guy who's in charge of somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't had a chance to watch that.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't have a whole lot of time. But
would that be frustrating to you, like when you know something is being done wrong? Like, I flip out if I'm watching something. I go, well, you can't do that. Like, I don't know, as a lawyer.
It happens all the time. I mean, I've not just with lawyers, but I mean, I've been in court, and I mean, there's judges that sometimes let things happen. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying, well, look, that's not what the Florida rule of procedure is, or that's not what a statute says, or that's not, the order of things, but it's not my courtroom. So sometimes you have to, you just got to deal with things accordingly, and then you file the proper corrective pleadings, or you seek an appeal. I mean, so whether it's a judge or a lawyer or a prosecutor, whatever the case may be. That's why I used to tell you, if you hung out with me for a week, your head would spin with the stuff I see, and talk to folks and deal with, and it always.
I would object at the wrong times.
Well, and it also a lot of stuff happens outside of court. I mean, I'll talk to a judge. I had a conversation with an adjuster last week on a personal injury case, and I'm shaking my head on the phone. And the adjuster even admitted, they go, well, you might think I'm an idiot. And I go, well, I'm not going to tell you what I think because I'm going to be professional on the phone. I mean, so the adjuster says to me, Mr. Ferriello, you might think I'm an idiot. I said, I am not going to disclose to you what I think my opinion of you is as a professional courtesy. However, I will relay your top dollar offer to my client, and we'll get back with you. In that case, it's going to go into litigation. But it was a nice way, to deal with, whatever this individual's issue was. But it's across the board, Mike. It really is crazy. Good morning, by the way.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
I'm okay.
Let's get to these phone calls. If you got a phone call, the 800 line is wide open, 800-771-1025. Let's start with Kim. Kim, you're on Acid Dom. What do you got, Kim?
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for taking my call. So this is a great one here.
All right.
I needed a new AC unit, verified the company license. Nice guy who frequents my business. The only problem is he didn't pull a permit. Now, this was 2 years ago. The unit's been nothing but problems. He's probably been out 30 times. I mean, very willing. He shoved the unit up in my attic where it didn't fit. He brought it back down. Trying to make it right, but it's been nothing but issues. So I got tired of being patient with him, and I freaked out a little bit, threatened litigation, and to appease me, he went ahead and pulled a permit. Now, this is 2 years later. So the county inspector comes out to my house 2 weeks ago, and let's just say there's 2 pages of major issues. I guess the huge issue is that he cut the trusses in my garage ceiling to make the unit fit.
Oh, man.
And
so
now
your roof is dangerous.
Well, they also avoided the warranty on the house there.
Yeah, I'm worried about my homeowner's insurance. So we cut the trusses in the roof. Now, the county inspector told me that's going to require a structural engineer to submit a plan to fix it with the county, then get a contractor. The electrical looks like my dog watched a YouTube video and tried to do it. I mean, it's a total fire hazard. He put the wrong ductworks in, no fire retardant ductworks to the house. My ceiling is falling in my.
All right, well, wait, hang on. Before you depress me on a Tuesday morning, I've got it. We got it. This guy did a horrible job. What is your question? You want to go after him? I mean, because listen, you got 2 issues here. Number one is you got a civil issue, and number 2, he might even have, if he doesn't, does he have a contractor's license? Or he just didn't pull the permits?
Here's what I found out is that the license isn't actually in his name. It's some guy north of here who I Googled. So it looks like he's working under someone else's license.
Okay, well, then it's not a criminal issue because you can actually get a charge if you're a contractor or operating without a contractor's license. But if he's operating under somebody else's license, then it may not venture into that area. So now you're just mainly on the civil side to recoup your costs, recoup your damages, the expense that you're going to now have to have a structural engineer come in and look at the trusses, to replace perhaps the unit, the wiring, et cetera. So, now the question is this guy, the name of the company? I mean, you're going to have to sue the company as well as him, if not make a formal demand and see if these folks will pay. Not only pay your money back, but also your additional damages and costs above and beyond that. Because it's much more than what the service had required. Now, if the machine kept breaking, now, I don't know if it's the machine's fault or if these people just didn't install it correctly, because then she might have a different issue on the type of unit if it, in fact, was a newer unit. So if you need an attorney to do that, we certainly have one for you. And, again, you just make a demand. A lot of folks don't see, they go to court immediately. How much have you lost in damage? Have you added it up?
We put out about $7,000 cash for the unit itself. And since then, here's the problem. The guy's chomping at the bit to come back and make it right. He saw the report. He's a nervous wreck.
I wouldn't have that guy back on my property. Yeah, do you damn mind?
Exactly.
You burn the house down.
Stoker back at my house.
I
don't want him back.
No, I think
so,
you got to get a different company. You need a different company in there.
Can I tell you something, Kim? I do an endorsement for a company called Superheat and Air, and you probably know there are so many AC companies in Florida because of the weather, and everybody needs air conditioning. It's a big business down here, and I would not do an endorsement for a company that I could not actually recommend. Like, I don't want to say, hey, this guy's great, and the next thing you know, he's cutting trusses down in your attic. So I had these guys out, and I bought 3 units from them, and I had them install them. I had them do the work. I paid for them. I went in there like a regular customer, and then I've used them as my AC company. Before I can recommend something to somebody else, to a mass audience, I have to know for sure that they're a good recommendation or ruin my reputation. These guys are fantastic. I would like to tell them about your situation and see if maybe they can get involved and help you get your stuff fixed. and and maybe between Dom and Super Heat and Air, you can actually have some peace of mind as well as getting the correct work done to your house. And then the lawyer obviously take care of the other guy who you don't want back in your house. But I can honestly tell you that this is a big deal because there's so many of these companies, and a lot of them are here one year and gone the next year. You don't want a company like that. And in your case, it seems like you said he was a client of yours that you were trying to keep it in your network, trying to do something for a favor maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it ended up biting you in the ass. So if you'd like, I'd like to at least turn you on to Dennis at Super Heat and Air and see if he gives something he could recommend for you.
Wonderful. And then Dom, as far as attorneys go, I'm not sure who to call. Is that a consumer law attorney? Like, where do I go with that?
Yeah, well, there's two. There's one that I work with. Is David Parrott has been on my show a few times, and he actually has a colleague, Patrick Creeman, and what they do is they do contracts work, proper damage work, warranty issues, lemon law issues. So if the unit was brand new and if it failed, that's one issue. If there wasn't a malfunction with the unit, but the installer, obviously with the wiring and all of this other things, and that's obviously something separate. So just go to askthedom.com or just call the office and say, hey, I was talking to you on the show this morning, and we'll get you their information. And I can also vouch for the folks that Mike's talking about because I was at Mike's house this weekend and was quite comfortable in there. The house was very cool.
Kidding me? Penguins could do my
we were watching Top Gun together, Mike and I said, Mike, I leaned over. I says, the atmosphere in here is very comfortable. I remember that conversation.
I like to keep it like they have in flying atmosphere. Kim, hold on, please. Let me get your number from Carmen. I'd like to connect you and Dennis. And good luck to you. We'll get that taken care of.
There we go. Great first call.
Hold on, yeah.
Good call.
Look, I'm telling you, anytime that you want to have somebody come in your house and do some work, you can't just be like, oh, my husband's coworker's friend owns a company. You can, because then you're going to find yourself in a situation like this.
Yep.
The last time I did that was with a pool company, and I had to chase the pool company down.
It's those seem to be the most prevalent for some reason. A lot of people seem to complain about pools, and I don't know why that particular business, when you talk about home investment or home repairs, seems to be so prevalent. But the majority of the calls or emails I get in this area seems to surround some type of pool installation or pool repair. I don't know why.
All right, let's go to Alex. Alex, you're on with Ask the Dom. What do you got, Alex?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Good. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Hey, so 4 or 5 months ago, my wife got into a car accident, and the other person's driver insurance company claimed fault because it was their fault when they rear-ended her at a stop sign.
Okay.
So she's been going through all the medical process with the chiropractor, MRI, the whole 9 yards. They got her scheduled for a round of injections to go in her neck because she got 2 slip discs and a herniated disc in her neck. So she was scheduled for a second round of injections, but the attorney's office called and canceled the injections because they said that the other person's insurance company wouldn't cover the cost of the injections because the second round was going to cost more. The first round of injections was only $1,000. Second round was only $5,000. My issue is why cancel a second round of medical care when they've already done it once? My issue isn't necessarily with the insurance company. It's with the attorney that my wife got to cover the accident. They're just not explaining everything to her, and the lack of communication and the whole 9 yards. So my question is since we're so far into the case, can we switch, I guess, attorneys and go with a different attorney's office, or what would the proper course of action be?
Well, this is a great question, and this is a very problematic issue, and I need to answer this carefully and properly so you understand. I'm going to do it in reverse order. The answer is yes. You can always change attorneys, and when you hire the next attorney, you got to talk to the next attorney because some attorneys do things different. So when people hire me that come from other lawyers, the way I read the Florida Rules of Ethics is the attorney's fee is then shared between counsel. Some attorneys will charge a separate fee under the contingency fee agreement, and then the prior attorney would have a lien, a quantum merit lien, the work that they've done on the case up until they were discharged. And then some lawyers would classify that as a lien. such as a cost, such as a medical bill or expense. I don't think that's proper. So if anybody hires me coming from a different lawyer, then I will pay the prior lawyer's lien out of my portion of the fee. So that's the first issue that I want to make clear, and I've said that a lot on the air.
Right.
Second, Mike, and just so you know, when lawyers make decisions that affect medical treatment, I humbly believe that is wrong because that is outside their job. I am not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
For me to call a doctor's office or to call a client and tell them, well, you can't get this therapy or you can't have these injections, or go a step further and call and cancel, I think that is extremely problematic, and that also is unethical. You just can't, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not my job. My job is to protect you legally if you're a client.
Right.
So what happens here, and I'm going to answer the question for him so he understands what's happening, and everybody listening, well, why the hell did this happen? What happened is the accident, you have PIP under Florida law, personal injury protection. The PIP, the personal injury protection, is probably exhausted. The at-fault insurance company, I would assume, has a very small policy limit, like a $10,000 policy. The UM may or may not be in existence. So what the lawyers are doing is they're saying, well, look, we want to try to protect you so you don't have a negative balance. If we settle your case for $10,000, but you've got $25,000 in medical bills, then they're going to yell at the lawyer and says, well, I'm $15,000 in the hole, not including PIP or not.
Right.
So that's probably why the call was made, sir, because they're trying to protect having an extraordinary large bill. The way around that, there's mechanisms around that where you can say, well, look, I'm not going to tell you to stop. We can work with the clinic, get health insurance involved, get governmental assistance involved. There's county aid, there's federal aid, there's other entities called LOPs, letters of protections that lawyers can do. There's a lot of different things. So this is a very problematic question that I don't think it's been a while since we've addressed it on the air. But lawyers, sir, should not be calling doctors' offices, canceling any medical appointments at all, ever. And if folks are doing that, you may want to seriously consider switching, because I certainly would not recommend that. And I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And I certainly apologize if that's the situation, and I apologize if this response was harsh to any profession in any way. But you know me, Mike. I don't dodge questions.
No.
I tell you straight.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't do that.
Probably not. Other lawyers probably don't want you doing it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and I understand. But listen, I understand the mentality. They're thinking, hey, we want to protect them financially. Yeah, but the main goal as a personal injury attorney, number one, is you want the folks to feel better medically. Right. And you let the doctors do what the doctors need to do. And a lot of doctors listening are probably appreciating this and say, hey, look, don't step on our toes. You're not doctors. Don't jack up the way we're doing treatment. Just like lawyers saying, hey, doc, don't tell us if we can make a claim or not.
Yeah.
Or don't tell us what type of claim it is. Somebody got upset that says, hey, a doctor told them that this is a straight up workers' comp claim in one area, and it wasn't.
Right.
You stay out of our area. We'll stay out of yours, but respect each other's perspective professions accordingly. So that is the problem with that call today, and it's not his fault. It's just the lawyers their intentions were good, the execution was bad. That's probably the best way I can say it.
I do have one more question. The attorney did file a letter of protection.
Okay, good. See, there's a start. That's wonderful.
They're just not giving us the information that we need so my wife can get the proper care, because she's obviously in excruciating pain from the accident and has been since day one.
She's entitled to know everything in the file, sir. If a client calls me up and says, Dom, I want a copy of my file, yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. I need to know something, I'll tell them. If they don't understand, I'll explain it to them.
And she's called countless times trying to request all the files, and every time she calls, she gets the assistant, or she can't have anyone answer the phone, and they don't return phone calls.
Well, that's why I'm here. That's why.
And also, Dom brings up the best thing. Dom says, if you can't get your lawyer on the phone, go there one day.
Yeah,
show up.
Yeah, I don't listen. I don't want anybody to be fired. I always tell people, Dom, I want to hire you. I said, well, did you talk with your lawyer first? Well, I can't get through. Try to go over there and see if you can meet with them in person, and then once that happens, they can if they just blow you off or they won't set an appointment, well, there's nothing else you can do but to go find separate counsel. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else, so depending on where you live or where you're comfortable going or traveling. But, make the effort to communicate, if not over the phone or email, at least in person. And then if that doesn't work, then you can contact another lawyer. Absolutely.
Now, at that point, if we do find that other attorney, would we be financially responsible to pay for any attorney's fees?
No,
like you were
not
saying,
with me. Now, I can't answer that question for any other counsel. But if you hired me, I would pay that attorney's lien out of my portion of the attorney's fee. So 33 1/3 if the case was not in litigation. So out of my percentage. So, for example, let's say the case settles for $10,000 pre-suit. That's a $3,333,000 attorney's fee. So threes across the board. And let's say their lien was $1,000. Well, I would pay the $1,000 out of my $3,333. It would have no effect on the remaining percentage. Now, keep in mind, the remaining $6,667.67, that you always have to pay the outstanding medical bills and balances that have not been covered by the PIP, because PIP only pays that 80% less deductibles. So you still have to pay your outstanding costs there, which is why the lawyers probably called the folks saying, hey, if you do a second round of injections, you're going to go past the amount of coverage we have. Now, I'm assuming it's 10. I'll just say that number is a hypothetical. So for folks listening, they can kind of follow along with the math. Maybe it's a 25 policy. Maybe there's other issues in play. But I'm pretty sure that's why they did what they did, to protect her. Because what happens, clients come back to me and say, well, Mr. Ferriello, I owe $20,000 in meds and I got a $10,000 policy, and they'll be upset. And I learned early in my career I have to communicate better with them to explain, hey, we need to get health insurance involved. We need to do an LOP. We need to maybe request for governmental assistance. We need to make sure we protect this. Absolutely.
All right, sir. Good luck to you. Dom, if you can, let's go to a personal call.
Oh.
This is Bawlls.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, Bawlls?
What's up, bro? You want me dead? You can owe Josh money? I paid Josh back.
First of all, you're a fugitive. I don't want you dead. Josh didn't say he got his money back, did he?
No, Josh said that he gave you money for a Bawlls box and never got it, is what he said.
Yeah, I call him on three-way, man. I give him back the money when you guys were down at the 5 o'clock club in Sarasota. Was that like 6 or 7
You
months
are
ago?
on
Maybe 8 months
the
ago?
worst phone ever made.
Are you in prison
sorry,
now?
No, I'm on Andalusia Island, so the reception sucks. But yeah, man, I gave Josh back his money on the Pitbull Tower bus.
All right. Well, you deal with Josh. We'll worry about that later. Now, do we have your permission to talk to Dom about your case?
Yeah, I can only talk about the arrest, not about my case.
Oh, man. So there's more to it?
Bro, to be honest with you, I have no idea what this charge is even about.
Bawlls, is there any other phone in the world you can use except the one that you're on right now?
I can try calling you back in a minute, man. See if this service is better.
I mean, it's not. It's the phone. You're over-modulating everything that you say.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I'm out here on Amway Island, and I have crappy service.
So they pick you up where? In New Jersey?
I got stopped in New Jersey. I got put in Essex County Jail in Newark, New Jersey, and maximum security because I was labeled as a fugitive from justice out of Florida. And I was in Essex County for a month, and then I was picked up by a prisoner transport company called Prisoner Transport.
Well, hold on. Let me get to that. You were in maximum security in Newark for a month.
Yeah, because when you get classified in the jail under a fugitive from justice charge.
Oh yeah, so I understand. How long before you started doing gay stuff?
No, I'm good on that, bro. That doesn't really happen, man. It doesn't really happen.
All right. So what about fighting? Any fights going on?
I saw a couple fights, but not with me, bro. I sit there, I'm on my business, and I know what a jail, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my first rodeo. I'm on my business. I watch TV and I eat my soups. You know what I'm saying?
Your what?
My soups. Like, my ramen noodles.
It's his soups. His soups.
Soups.
Ramen
okay.
noodles there predominantly.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so you get out of there after a month. They transport you down to Chicago, and then they fly you here?
They put me on a prisoner transport bus from Newark, New Jersey to Chicago, man, for 6 days, okay?
What's that, like a school bus?
Dude, it's a Sprinter van, all right, that has 5 dudes on one side in the back and 5 dudes on the other side with a aluminum wall in front of everybody in the pitch black, man. for 7 days, okay? There were dudes in there that were dope sick, that were throwing up everywhere. There were dudes in there that were peeing themselves and pooping themselves because they don't stop for the bathroom, man. And, they'll stop occasionally, like a county jail or something. And if the county jail doesn't allow you to use the bathroom in there, it's like, yo, you're beat and get back in the truck because, the dudes that drive those vans are not cops, but they're, certified, extradition officers.
Right.
So, they'll beat your ass, man. You can't, talk back to them or nothing. And, they're trash, bro.
So you can't. So if you have to urinate, they don't have to necessarily stop for you. I would go nuts because I'm a frequent peer.
Bro, listen to this. There was a dude in there that had an anxiety attack and he passed out. He was unconscious for about an hour, and we got to a county jail. We're banging on the walls, bro, trying to get this guy, the guys that were driving the van to stop. They can't hear us, all right? Because we're in the back of a sprinter van. It's a cage, bro. And this guy was unconscious for about an hour, and we finally got to a county jail somewhere in Ohio, I think. And they dragged the dude out. And they put him in an ambulance, and I never saw the dude again. And the company that does it is called Prisoner Transport Services. They're facing $1 million lawsuits, bro. A lot of people have died in their custody.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the back. You're sitting in the back of that van, man, in the pitch black, and you have no idea where you are.
Yeah, I kind of think that's a little much for 5 days in the car to be pitch black.
Hey, man, don't get me wrong. Everybody that's in that van is either a convicted felon or an alleged felon, okay? And, people look at it like, oh, well, they're convicts. Who cares? But, dude, it's really, messed up, man. It is. And
what's the AC situation like?
We had air conditioning back there. It was actually freezing, to the point where, it was too cold.
That would make me have to pee, too, if it was so cold.
Yeah, and they're feeding McDonald's and Wendy's, man. And I didn't even eat, to be honest with you, because my stomach is messed up as it is. And I knew if I ate the McDonald's, I was gonna have to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't eat it. You know what I mean?
We apologize for the connection with Bawlls, but we haven't been able to talk to him for months. He's on the worst phone ever. But I want to get to the bottom of this. So now you're here for good, or you're hiding out, or what are we doing?
No, I'm not hiding out at all, man. I actually use Freedom Bail Bonds, which is Dominic's partner, Pam, who's a great lady. She got me out of jail. I was a week in jail, waiting to hear back from all these charges and everything else. And Freedom Bail Bonds bailed me out on Saturday, and I should be leaving tonight, going back up north for a minute, and I'll be back down here for court.
Yeah, so Pam is my mother-in-law. As you know, I love her so much. It's Mama, so
she's awesome.
She is. So if you contact her and you have a bond or warrant issue, her company is Freedom Bail Bonds, also a sponsor to my show. So what happened is when we found out that Bawlls had some warrant issues, I believe it was Sarasota or Manatee County, if I have the counties correct, I got him in touch with Pam, and then Pam went ahead and posted the bonds using what the bail bonds agent have powers. So she has to have a certain number of powers, post the bonds for him. So now as long as he communicates with Pam and lets her know, hey, I'm going to be going out of the state and then coming back, he'll be okay. And then if I'm not mistaken, did you contact with Bill Sansoni to help you with the situation in Manatee and Sarasota?
I texted Bill yesterday, and I actually called your office yesterday, Dom. You were at court, and I checked in with Pam.
Yesterday was with okay. So yesterday, Bill should be back in the office because his federal trial went away. So he's in fact, Mike, Bill just told me over the weekend that he's now going to be coming on the cruise because the federal trial went away. And I know that he should have a lot more availability Balls in the office this week if you need to reach him.
I'm very upset that Mike Rose is not going.
Yeah, Mikey's the best, isn't he?
All right, Balls. Well, I'm glad that you're being taken care of.
Yeah, and Bill, I didn't forget about you, man. It's not like I just bounced and haven't called you. You know, I've been between the psych wards and rehabs and suicide attempt, and now jail, bro. I got a lot going on, so I don't think I'm ducking and dodging you, bro, at all. You know what I mean? So
I didn't say you were ducking and dodging me. I just was wondering what was going on with you.
Right on. Well, I'm here, brother. I'm here.
All right. Well, it's good to hear from you. Sorry, not in these circumstances, in this horrible phone that you're on.
Hey, I'm sorry about the phone, man. It is what it is. I'll get through it. So it's all good. It's in my first rodeo, brother.
Well, stay out of the suicide ward and stay out of the psych ward.
I'm good, man. Thank you.
All right, Balls. See ya. Well, Galvin, I hope that answers your questions about Balls. I know you had.
I actually didn't have any at all.
Sorry.
But the good news is that the office has got him under control. I know it's frustrating for
it's hard
folks.
to control board.
Well, you got different issues with the law. And there's a mechanism to address whatever the issues are. So like we said earlier, sometimes you may not like how things go. There is a process.
Right.
And we have, things in place to handle different phases of any, court issue, whether it's a civil or criminal matter. I just reach out to the office, email or contact me, because if I'm not aware of an issue, I can't help you.
Yeah, that's certainly the truth. And if you have a question you didn't get through today, there's a full board of phone calls before we ran out of time. So if you want to get through, Dom has his show tomorrow night. Or you can also call their 813-251-5550, or always go to AskTheDom.com, and he's pretty good at returning your phone calls and helping people out.
Yeah, I'll be at the office throughout the day today. I do have court this afternoon. Sheriff Chad Chronister is my guest tomorrow night live in studio.
I love him.
Along with spokesperson Danny Alvarez. Danny actually had just announced that he is running for circuit court judge in 2020 in Hillsborough County. So Danny will be on the show along with the sheriff. That's always a great show because we always chat about the status of the sheriff's office. And, of course, the sheriff takes questions from the listeners, and which is great because how many opportunities do you have to not only listen to the sheriff, but then call in, ask a sitting sheriff a question, and then the sheriff responds accordingly. Yeah. It's a wonderful opportunity. We're so fortunate that they do that.
What a real personable guy he is.
Yes.
He came out to the brunch on Saturday. People like to talk to him. He's a guy that wants to communicate with you. He cares about what you think.
He cares about the community.
He does.
And he wants to make a difference. He wants to make us all safer. And he's got a great ear. He listens. And that it's very refreshing, and then he takes that to heart. And then he'll follow up with folks with different issues to make sure things are okay. And I'm really excited to have him on the show again. I mean, they usually come on once a quarter, so
right.
And we kind of do a status of the sheriff's office throughout the year. So this is going to be obviously for the fall, and there's a lot going on and different things. So if you tune in tomorrow night, it'd be a great time.
All right, good, Dom. Thank you.
Absolutely,
great
Mike.
to see you. We spent some quality time together this weekend.
It was nice. The nicest part of the weekend might have been when you and I watched the love scene in Top Gun.
I mean, we didn't watch as much as we did to act it out as it was on. You take my breath away, Dom.
Hot.
Take a quick break. It's the Mike Calta Show. It's 102.5 The Bone.
You're listening to the Mike Calta Show on 102.5 The Bone.